So we're ready to go. Thanks all. First on the agenda is Certificate of Compliance, 650 Pleasant Street. And John, I think that's you now.
Correct.
All right, you're on, and as I understand it, you're looking for a certificate of compliance a little bit less than 3 years ago. You've got an order of conditions. I think the date was July 30th of 2021. And it's my understanding that you did nothing, or did you do something?
Nothing. I did not do any of the work on that thing, and I think it expired already.
It runs for 3 years, and I think the start date is July 30th of 21.
Okay.
At least that's what our packet of information says.
Okay.
But actually, you may have written it. I don't know.
I don't know. I know that we did not build anything on the house. So.
All right. And are you in the midst of a sale?
No, we already sold it. We closed on the house June 21st.
Oh, so it's already closed. All right. So sometimes the lack of a certificate of compliance will impact the sale.
It has. They're holding money back from us. The title company is waiting for you guys to sign this. Yeah.
All right. So the only issue that I've got is that we don't have in our packet the order of conditions. But I think, Steve, you were able to find it. Can you tell us what's in it? I think this is an addition and a deck, was it not, John?
It was an addition. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what you're asking. You guys, I thought that we had everything all teed up.
And John, yes, the order of conditions is pretty much a standard order of conditions. Let me see if there are any other issues. Hang on a second. I've got that on another computer. I didn't realize you'd be looking for it tonight. I thought it was in the packets.
I've just got the Form 8A in the package, and that's the request for a certificate of compliance.
Isn't that all you guys asked for, too?
Yeah, but there are
43 conditions.
I'm trying to dot the I's and cross the T's, John, here, because it says the above referenced order of conditions has lapsed, which it has not yet, and it's therefore no longer valid, and the work regulated was never started. So
exactly.
We're trying to get there, but it hasn't lapsed yet. Because on the form, the 8A form, it says it was issued.
They can't figure it out.
Where did I see? The issue date, I think, is July 30th of 2021. So it actually hasn't lapsed, but I think we can make a conditional vote on this to issue it on your representation that nothing's been done. Steve, have you seen the site, 650 Pleasant Street?
I have seen the site, yes. And I don't believe anything was done.
Okay. And John has represented that nothing was done.
Correct.
Is anybody uncomfortable? Because it's going to lapse in, 3 weeks, or 3 weeks, I guess. It technically hasn't lapsed, but nothing's been done to date. So it appears that the Form 8A, we could check it off, certificate of compliance, because under 5 in the third box, it says, I'm going to quote, the above referenced order of conditions has lapsed and is therefore no longer valid, and the work regulated by it was never started. So I think we could take a vote that even though we've got a 3-week lag time here before the technical lapse, nothing will be permitted and nothing will be done.
And John, I'm looking, this is Steve again, I'm looking at the order of conditions, and the conditions that reference septic systems and sewers have not been checked off. Obviously, that particular house goes directly to the street system. There's nothing else in the order of conditions.
Is that a
That's-
question?
No, that's
No.
not a question. That's
Okay.
just letting folks know that it's a standard set of conditions, minus some details on sewers and tanks and things like that. Manholes.
All right. I'm comfortable addressing this by a vote to issue the order on the basis that nothing's been done on the order, and at least by the 30th of this month it will expire. And is anybody uncomfortable with voting on it, given the fact that this is not yet the 30th of July?
No.
Say so or hold your peace. Okay, I'm comfortable with voting on it right now, and I'm comfortable on the basis that.
Lost the audio.
You lost my audio or yours? Can you hear me, Tom? Tom, are you there?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. Tom, are you good?
We lost Tom.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
dear.
lost Tom. So. All right. Sorry for all the technical glitches here. And I've been such a supporter of these Zoom meetings because I think they're generally cheaper for the public. Tom, wave if you can hear us. If you can't.
He's not.
I'm
He's
sorry,
not talking.
John. Lost video. I mean, lost audio, lost sound.
Lost audio.
Tom,
He's talking-
use the telephone.
Gotcha.
Can you use the phone?
We
All right.
can hear
Sorry,
him.
John, I assume he's calling us in now.
Yeah.
Are we listening to him dial the number?
I think
Yes.
we are.
How can we hear him? Tom,
It's the music and
You're not be able to hear us.
correct. He's got to plug in the magic numbers. Steve, I told you this wouldn't be a short meeting.
Right. Yes, you did, John.
All the best laid plans of making that. You there, Tom, now? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, okay. That's good. All right, so to move this along, I'll make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 650 Pleasant Street based upon the representations of John Teeden that nothing's been done. Steve has been to the site, has seen that he couldn't see anything that was done. Although the expiration of the order conditions won't take place until the 30th, I think we can take a vote contingent upon passage of time and the representation that nothing will be done pursuant to that order of conditions in the next, 2.5 to 3 weeks. Is there a second to that motion?
So we'll
Second.
second.
All right, thanks. Any discussion? Are there any abutters or members of the public that are here or would like to make a comment or ask a question? Hearing none, any discussion among the commission members? Hearing none, roll call vote. Tom, how do you vote?
Yes.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, John Kiernan, vote yes as well. So that's unanimous. John, you're good to go. We'll get that out
Thank
to you. Stay in touch with Philip at the DPW yard, and we'll get that signed as quickly as we can for you.
Thank you, folks, and thank you, Samir, too.
All
Thank
right,
you,
good.
John.
I'll connect with you and I can swing by the office, Philip, and pick it up whenever.
Okay, the trick is to get us up there to sign it. We've got to get enough.
It's got to be
signatures on.
signed. That's right.
So whenever is convenient, no problem.
All right, good. All right,
All right.
thanks,
Thank you.
thanks all. Okay, next on the agenda, we have determination of, this is a request for determination of applicability Central Avenue, Trolley Station. And do we have a presenter? We've got booklets here that are good and clear, so I think we've got a head start.
Yep. My name is Jeremy Fontaine. I'm with MBTA Environmental, and I'm here with two members from our consultant team that have a presentation ready for the commission.
Perfect, you're on. Now, welcome, first of all. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Ryan with AECom. Can you see and hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Let me just figure out how to share my screen so I can,
I think I need to give you permission.
okay, yes, sharing is not turned on.
Right. And I need to find where I can do that. Apps. Show captions, participants. Okay. Melissa. I'm making you a co-host.
Oh, great.
Okay.
That means we're
Aren't
going
you
to send you
lucky?
the bill.
Oh, boy.
There, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. No. Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
Great. Very good. We're off to a good start. Well, good evening, everyone. As Jeremy mentioned, I'm with AECom. My name is Melissa Ryan. I'm here also with Piper Cole. She's a planner, environmental planner here, and we've worked on this RDA. We've been working with the MBTA for a few years now on the project called AFC 2.0. A little background on that project. If you don't know, the MBTA is embarking on a program-wide initiative where they are going to be replacing the fare equipment within the transit stations system-wide. So currently in the stations, there are fare vending machines that will be replaced with new ones. And there'll be, with this new project, there'll be an introduction of a new type of equipment that will facilitate the fare collection. And the impetus for all this is to make it a more streamlined and easier fare collection process for the rider. But that's not why we're here specifically today. We're specifically here to tell you about the work at Central Avenue and the impact it will have on the resource areas jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act. So if you bear with me, I will get into the details. So we're going to talk a little bit about the location, the existing conditions, and the proposed work. So our first station is Central Avenue, and here's the aerial view. You can see, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the locations, but Central Avenue is to the east. The station is right behind this new condominium or apartment building. Neponset River is to the north, and then the rail line continues to the west. There's the USGS map that was included in your packet. Okay, so here's some existing conditions photos of what we have in the station right now. So right here, this is the inbound side. And this area right here, photograph 1, is the area where the majority of the the new equipment will be installed. So we'll come back to this location in a minute. This gray cabinet is important because this is where the power is fed from. So that is where the cabling equipment conduit will be going. Photograph 4 is also of the inbound platform. And then photograph 4 is of the outbound platform. Photograph 2 is of the inbound platform. So I'm going to take you to the existing conditions plan. So Central Avenue Station is an at-grade surface.
I don't know who that's coming from. Originally, I thought it was your consultant who's on the phone as well.
I'm gonna check. I think it might be another phone.
All right.
Is this turned off? Is that better?
Yeah,
Much
it is.
better.
Tom, thanks.
Much better,
Thank you.
Tom.
Sorry for the interruption, Melissa.
No problem.
Your dishes were on the Zoom.
Okay, so this is our existing condition plan. I have the aerial of the site. The the station is right in the center of the screen. It is an at-grade surface level station. There's 2 tracks, an inbound and an outbound. Outbound is on the north, inbound is on the south. They are concrete level platforms with a wood ramp that facilitates accessible boarding on the trolleys. Additionally, this plan shows the resource areas. So the Neponset River is to the north of the site, and we've hatched the floodplain, and you can see it goes just to about the northern limit of the station itself. In between the Neponset River and the station, we have the Neponset Trail and the bank of the river. For purposes of this filing, we've used just GIS. We did not go out and do a delineation. And also noted here is the MBTA property limits. So the MBTA property limit extends over the Neponset Trail, just approximately coincident with the edge of the river to the north. And to the south, the property line is right at the back of the inbound platform, in between the station and the new building. This aerial photograph is old, so you can see the new building isn't even here. So I also want to point out the 100-foot buffer zone is demarcated by this dashed line down here on the bottom. And that was measured from an offset from the bank of the Neponset River. Additionally, we have riverfront area here. It's 200 feet from the bank of the Neponset River, and the limit of it extends outside of the viewport of the plan, but it does cover the entire station. Does anyone have any questions so far?
No, Melissa, we appreciate very much your detail. We've spent a lot of time there. In fact, just within the last 2 months, we were there for the MBTA vegetation management program.
Sure.
So we've actually spent a lot of time there.
Okay, great.
But
well,
so we
then
do appreciate your detail.
Okay. Well, maybe on the next one then.
I've got a question for you, and that is this new machine, vending machine, going on the existing concrete platform, or are you creating any more impervious surface?
We are not creating any more impervious surface. In a minute, I will get to what exactly we're doing. The equipment themselves, actually, I can show you right now. This is what the equipment looks like.
Can you try to? Wow.
Whew.
Can you try?
What was that?
Perfect. I don't know. Thanks, Tom.
On the inbound platform, this is the fair vending machine, the new fair vending machine that will be installed. And it will be going in the area of the concrete platform that's already there. And it will be supported structurally with an equipment pad. And I have the detail here on the screen. Right now, we're planning for a 4-foot deep concrete equipment pad that will be flush the top of the concrete pad would be flush with the existing concrete concrete platform. But in the event that they get out, once they get out into the field and do the construction, if there is an easier way to construct it, they have an option of doing a more shallow concrete equipment pad. It all just depends on what the conditions are out on the platform for, you know, the depth, like what's underneath the surface, because our design didn't do any survey work.
Understood, but it's all within the existing footprint, correct?
Yes, it is.
That was our only concern.
Yes.
Wow. My only concern.
Yep.
Okay.
And these machines are fairly, you know, fairly small. They're 17 inches wide by 11 inches deep. So the equipment pad that's going to be underneath it, you know, will only be about 2 feet wide by 2 feet wide or deep.
Understood. Thank you.
So if I go back up to the proposed conditions, the other point to note is how they'll have to power the machines. They'll have to run conduit and wire within the station footprint, and that's identified by these dashed squiggly lines. And they're if they can't use the existing conduit that's there already, they're going to have to open the existing concrete trench and lay new conduit and wire. And again, this is where the power is fed from, this box right here. So it'll be all within the concrete. There is the potential to have to go under the tracks during which they would stockpile in this small area right here, and then replace everything as it is today. They would replace the ballast and the rail and ties. Then
and to the extent that, can I ask you a question? To the extent that
Sure.
you're cutting into the concrete and trenching, or at least potentially trenching for the conduit, do you have erosion control here?
Yes, we do. So in the contract, we have silt sacks and compost filter tubes. Here's the standard details. The compost filter tube would be placed on the northern edge of the inbound, outbound platform. I don't know why I keep getting that mixed up. Outbound platform by this thick dashed black line. That's the limit of the compost filter tube. And you can see it goes partially within the floodplain, but all the actual work is just within the buffer zone.
Okay. The only hang up that I could see coming for us would be the storage of equipment. I don't know how long this will take if you're cutting and possibly trenching, but we have the usual requirement, which would be a condition of a negative determination of the RDA.
They wouldn't.
The usual condition is that you have to store your equipment outside of our jurisdiction.
Yes,
and
they're actually. They actually
Yeah.
wouldn't be storing any equipment at the station. It's too small. So right now, currently, the thinking is that it would be stored at a different station at Milton Station, actually, is what we're thinking of right now.
Well, Milton Station's awfully close to the river. If it's within our jurisdiction,
it wouldn't be within your jurisdiction because it wouldn't be. It's not even within the. No, it wouldn't be within the jurisdiction. It would be it would be in the parking lot outside of the station. So it would be farther away from the. I can double check that and confirm, but.
No, I can confirm. It would be in the parking. Yeah, it would be in the parking lot.
I know where the parking lot is. Right, but you've got 200 feet from the river, which would be jurisdictional to us. So that's our standard. That's our standard condition. I'm sure you can find a place that store the equipment.
I think we could work with the contractor to figure that out and the MBTA to figure that out.
Good, but one of our, I can anticipate that one of our conditions will be that there be notice to the contractors, because very often we have issues, not with the applicant, but with the contractors that they hire. And sometimes we talk to the contractor, hey, I didn't know. So
Well,
one of our
actually,
requirements is you got to tell them.
for this project, because it's system-wide, the procurement process is such that it's an on-call type of contract. So we actually already have a contractor on board and we are working with them. So, you know, whatever your conditions are as a result of this filing, it would be passed on to the contractor as part of this work directive for this work.
Perfect.
And we also have randomly, we'll have throughout the work process, environmental monitors will be there on site as well.
Okay. Yeah, our concern is generally overnight storage for pneumatic, any kind of hydraulic hose equipment. And we don't allow refueling within our jurisdiction either. But that's really, I think, pretty simple to comply with.
Sure.
We haven't really had any. The only time we've had problems with it is when the contractors weren't informed. Are there questions from commission members? I can't see everybody, so I don't know if there's a hand raised. I don't hear anything. All right, this is a separate RDA from the next one, which is what, Valley Road or Capon Valley Road?
Valley Road.
John.
All right, so why don't we take the vote
It's the same principle, the same type of work that's happening at Valley Road. So we can go on to that next after the vote.
All right. I can't see people on the screen, but Arthur Doyle, do you have any comments or questions or concerns?
None. I read the report and it's very thorough. I want to compliment you on the preparation.
Thank you very much.
All right, Tom Palmer.
I agree with Arthur.
All right, Wendy.
No further questions. Thank you, John.
All right. Is there a motion for a negative determination with our usual, I call them usual, Melissa, but our conditions that you don't refuel or overnight storage for the equipment?
So moved.
But
Mr.
other than the plan obviously includes, and we would require if you hadn't offered it, the erosion controls.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thanks, Arthur. Is there a second?
Second.
Wendy, was that your hand up? Okay. Second.
Yes.
Thanks. Any comments or questions before we proceed to the vote from abutters and members of the public?
John, this is Steve. John?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
Steve Ivas. I just suggest a pre-construction meeting.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. And I assume that that's doable, easily doable for you, Melissa?
Sure.
Yeah, with the
All right,
contractor,
Steve.
of course. Yeah.
Right. And that is becoming the standard protocol as well. So good catch, Steve. Thank you. So with that additional condition, do you accept that, Arthur, as part of the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. And the second too, Wendy?
Yes.
All right. With that, any discussion from commission members? I don't see any hands and I don't hear anything. So, Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right. Wendy?
Yes.
Tom Palmer?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, John Kiernan. So you're good to go on that, Melissa. Yeah, let's
Great.
move on to the next station.
Valley Road. Yes. So this is off of Elliott Street. There's an access driveway and it actually goes down, it changes in elevation. So here's some of the photos.
Very good photos.
So you come down the stairs from the access path from Elliott Street down these stairs to the inbound platform. And if you look to your left, you see the salt box, which then you can see through past the salt box right here. And I know this isn't the best picture, but this is where the machines will be all placed in this area right here. So when you come down the stairs, to the left of the stairs. And so again, there's the electrical cabinet. There actually will not be anything on the outbound platform because you have to, you have to pass the inbound platform to get to the outbound platform. So we changed from our initial design, we revised it, and that took a lot of work out of the buffers. Excuse me, the floodplain. Oh, excuse me, no, the buffer zone. So again, here's your existing conditions, Neponset River and Neponset Trail to the north. Again, concrete platform at grade, 2 tracks. There is also a mini high with wood, but we're not disrupting that. So our 100-foot buffer zone is inclusive of the outbound platform, but stops, the limit of that is just before the inbound platform. But riverfront area would extend. And the MBTA's property line encompasses all of the station. So it goes to the top of the screen right here and the bottom. It's our FEMA map. So again, this has a much smaller footprint of work, work limits. There's going to be, let me zoom in. There's going to be 3 station validators and 1 fare vending machine. And the connections, the electrical connections are a little bit different here. They're going to be, there'll be some underground work from the electrical cabinet right here, and then go to 1 handhole, 1 existing handhole, and feed all the machines in this general area. Again, these machines will be on concrete pads, which is represented by these dark gray boxes. Again, I'll remind you that they're flush with the concrete platform, but there will be excavation to construct those. We're proposing the compost filter tube in this general area to protect the rail. Did you have a question?
I did. Once again, are all of the planned machines within the existing footprint of the concrete pad?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So there's no increase in impervious area?
Nope. So if you see right here, the limit of the concrete platform is from this corner back to the retaining wall. There's actually a retaining wall here that holds up the slope. So into the stairs, and it goes all the way over to the right side of your screen. So it's all concentrated on the left side of the concrete platform.
And erosion controls in this project?
Yes. So we have identified the limits of compost filter tube in this general area. And then the contractor will be required to install any silt sacks if there is any catch basins in the area.
All right. The existing silt sacks, they go partway along the platform, correct?
Yes, because
what's that based on? The limit of the erosion control, where it starts and where it stops. What's that based on?
It's based on the analysis the civil engineer did based on the the grading and the elevation of the existing rail and track area and level of ground outside of the platform. We can't extend the compost filter tube anywhere on the platform because we have to keep this area clear for pedestrians and riders.
What's the length of time that this project will take, do you know? Approximate, I know. you don't know exactly.
Approximately, depending on there's a little bit of starting and stopping, there's kind of some phases that they have to do, but probably I would say 30 to 60 days.
That's a long time.
It's relative. Again, that's in
Yeah.
totality. That's in totality to do the whole station. However, to do the individual work right here, to lay the to dig the trench and dig the equipment pads, the trenching, would be 1 day. The equipment pads might be 2 days, but then the concrete has to cure for 7 days.
Understood. Thank you. And does this one, I'm talking about a project, does this project have an environmental monitor as well?
Yes, it will. It will be part of a whole. But the MBTA is proposing to do the Mattapan line all together. So, sequentially, one after the other. So there'll be one that will follow along.
Yes,
to each station.
And so that's me, Commissioner. So part of my role is I go to all open construction sites where we have projects like this to ensure compliance.
All right, that's good. So you'd be in attendance at a pre-construction meeting, am I correct?
It would be either me or one of my coworkers who also does site visits, correct?
Okay. All right. Are there abutters, members of the public that have any questions or comments? Commission members? I don't hear anything, and I can't see everybody, so I don't know if any hands are raised. So I don't hear anything.
Quickly, what is a validator?
Glad you asked. So it looks like, it looks like a little mini iPad on a pedestal. And the purpose of it is to allow you to tap your Trolley card or some other type of media that you're using to pay for your ride when you get off and when you get on a trolley.
How does the driver know that you paid?
That's what the validator is for. It does it automatically. It's an account-based system. So once you tap on this screen, it'll deduct your money from your.
Well, suppose I tapped an ace of spades and then get on the train.
Tom, you wouldn't do that.
I'm just curious. I'm wondering how the driver knows that you have paid, because he's the one who lets you on, right?
And there are some stations, like if you think of North Station, you wouldn't be able to leave if you can't tap out.
There
you wouldn't be able to leave?
So
Will you be trapped? You'd be like Charlie, be on it forever?
Not trapped, but then that would show that you possibly didn't pay to get onto the train. So some locations
I
have
see.
that.
So you validate the card again when you get on?
Yes. There's going to be a
get it.
rollout of training and in enforcement that eventually they will know. They will be checked, they'll be able to check on the new system. And this, I don't think they won't give you a receipt or anything.
What about riders who don't have cell phones? What will they do?
You'll be able to purchase a new Trolley card to work with this new system.
Right. And these things are going to be weatherproof too, right? And vandal-proof. And
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Right. Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
Could I make one quick comment?
Yes. Yeah.
If possible, if it works out, we could, just putting out there, we could do both pre-construction meetings on the same day since they're not far from each other, knowing that the work might not occur all at once. Just saying that is a possibility if the commission is open to that.
Makes sense to me, John.
Yeah, makes sense to me too. Should not be a problem. All right, without any other comments or questions coming in, is there a motion to issue a negative determination for this RDA with the same conditions for the central lab station, meaning no refueling or storage overnight of equipment within our jurisdiction, and the pre-construction meeting as well?
So moved.
All right, thanks, Tom. Is there a second?
I second it,
Wendy,
John.
were you waving your hand?
Yeah,
Okay.
I second it.
We'll take that as a second. Thank you, Wendy. Any discussion among commission members? Hearing none. Arthur, how do you vote?
Yes.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Tom Palmer, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, John Kiernan. Thank you. I think you're good to go. And will you stay in touch? And I don't know who will be the lead person in terms of communication, but somebody needs to stay in touch with both Philip Driscoll and Steve Ivas.
Very good. Will do.
But they're easy to find. All right. When do you anticipate starting?
That probably in late summer to maybe early September.
Okay, good. All right. So we'll see you soon then.
All righty.
Thank you very much for your
thank you so
courtesy
much.
and presentation. All right.
Very good.
Good night. Next on the agenda, we have 533 Blue Hill Parkway. This is informational. Do we have someone here for 533 Blue Hill Avenue?
Yes.
Sorry, not
Hello,
Blue Hill
I'm
Avenue,
here.
Blue Hill Parkway. Sorry.
Hi, I'm
I'm
here.
sorry.
My name is Melissa, and I'm the owner of 533 Blue Hills Parkway.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. I know we sent a letter out to you and invited you here today, so thank you for your attendance. Can you tell us what you're doing? And I think, Steve, you've been out there, haven't you, Steve Ivas?
Yes, I sure have. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. Can you tell us what you've been doing?
Sure. So on the property in the backyard, we're using an excavator in order to level out the yard. There was a lot of dips and dents in the grassy area. And so, yeah, in order for the kids, we want them to be back there and be able to play and, have family fun time. So we want to make sure it's safe for everyone. So we're using dirt and gravel in order to level out the yard.
Do you know how much fill you brought in?
Say that again, please.
Do you know how much fill you brought into your yard?
Soil. 3 loads.
3 truckloads?
Loads, yes.
I don't know. How many trucks go in? What's our fill bylaw? When is that triggered? I don't know. Dave, do you know?
I'm sorry, I do not, John.
All right, Philip?
I do not know, sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure, but usually, you check for something like at the building department if you're bringing in a lot, but I don't know how much a lot is. So in any event, do you have a fence in your backyard? Because all of the commission members, we've spent a lot of time out there over these many, many years, and it was obvious to some of us that some of the property lines that were sort of de facto lines instead of the de jure lines, that meaning that some of the property owners were pushing back into conservation land, and we own that. We actually have the deed to that land now. So that was one of our concerns. The other one was removal of trees and shrubbery. Have you done any of that?
No. So in regards to the land or the first point that you stated, so my husband, he has a license in construction. So we used a digital device that would be able to measure out the property lines, which go back 200 feet from the front of the yard. But no, we haven't removed any trees back there as well.
All right. Somebody's going to have to help me with this, but I thought the original voice of concern was with a neighbor that said that trees were being removed. Am I correct on that, Philip? Do you know, or Steve Ivas?
This is Steve. I believe there was at least one dead snag tree, a large red maple. Is that correct, Miss King?
Yes, about 2 years ago, there was a dead tree within the property line that we did remove about like 2 years ago.
Yep. Thank you. And that was dead. There was no doubt.
Mhm.
How big were the truckloads, Ms. King?
Um,
Do you know what size
12.
trucks?
Yes, there were 12 yards.
12-yard trucks. Okay.
Would I be able to share my screen?
Sure. That'd be great.
Yes,
right,
Tom. One moment.
I'm just reading the letter to you, Ms. King, and it says our conservation agent was on site May 10th after an email from a neighbor that questioned work within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction that was not permitted. It says that was unpermitted. And it says he verified that the work completed is within the commission's purview. And that's, the he is Steve Ivers. So, Steve, is the grading work that's being done, whether it's a lot or a little bit of fill, is that within our jurisdiction? From what you
In
can
my
see?
opinion, yes. Some of it is the back section.
Okay. I mean,
Can you see
heard,
see the photo I put up?
I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 photos, and they're all pretty small.
Too many. Well, I'm looking at the red house, which I think is 533, and these photos are from February of 2023, February 17th, and it just looks like some clearing work extended from behind the lawn into the, I guess you would call it a shrubby area toward the pond. I don't know if you're looking at those photos. February of 2023, that's when I visited because I think I heard from a neighbor. It looked like a way had been cleared from the house to the pond. So I can look at these photos in sequence. I don't really want to show them all to you at once, but there was an area beyond the lawn where it looks like it was cleared by cutting the woody stuff. I'm going to stop sharing now, if you've seen them.
I can see them, but we definitely were. Oh, sorry.
I don't know why you're seeing all of the photos. I just wanted to show you one of them, but
can you pick one and show it to us, because they're pretty hard to see.
Yeah, let me. I'm sorry, I'm not getting this very good. I'm going to stop sharing and then try again.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, it says which window do you want to select, and I thought I had picked the right one. Is that the house we're talking about? Can you see that?
So those photos were taken in February of 2023, you're saying?
Yes. And, you know, for most of the people who back up to Pope's Pond, it doesn't look clear through to the house. Instead, there's undergrowth and trees. So it just looks to me like maybe not trees were cut, but vegetation was cut. And
no, we haven't done it. Sorry.
All right. It does seem like there's sort of a wide path going from the lawn to the pond here.
That's been there.
And yeah, I don't have any more recent photos. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Well, was that a log or a tree branch, or what was that?
Yeah, that was a dead tree laying across. But, you know, in most houses, you can't see them as you get close to the pond. This one seems to have like an opening of some sort. Steve, is that still there?
The log, I'm not sure, tell you the truth.
Well, the opening between the lawn and further into the
Oh, the opening is still
townland.
there. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
May I?
That opening would tend to disappear unless somebody kept it open.
Yeah. May I suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we take a look at it in the field?
Sure. Okay, we can do that. Do you know, yeah, we're going to be measuring backwards here, Ms. King. So we look at basically the distance from the pond as opposed to the distance from the front of your property to the back of your property. Because even if it's your property, you'd have to have a permit to level the land or remove the shrubs if it's within our jurisdiction. But I can't tell you it is. It's our jurisdiction is 100 feet from the pond.
Okay.
It's John.
There's also wetlands in between the pond and the row of houses. I just know that from not only having been there, but it's on the Milton mapper. Maybe I'll try sharing my screen again, and you can see that. Let's see if I can do that.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, first I have to get to the app, hit share screen, and which one do I want you to see? See if I see it here. Mass mapper. That's what I'm looking for. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the map that I want. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut that. It's just a blue dot or blue, it looks like a blotch that's in between the pond and the back lines, showing that the DEP mapped vegetated wetlands in between the pond and the homes. And in relation to 533, this blue blotch is a little bit to the north. Not exactly, yeah, it runs between 515 and 523, and it's about halfway between the back lot lines and the pond edge. So all I'm saying is that the jurisdiction is probably closer than 100 feet measured from the pond. That's all.
Understood. Now, Ms. King, do you know what he just said? Because a lot of people don't understand that jurisdictional lines. Yeah, we measure from. I mean, we have different measuring points of reference. One of them is the pond. Another one, as Tom just pointed out, would be wetlands. And wetlands are defined by either the soils or the foliage, the plant life, or trees that grow there. So if it's within our jurisdiction, you're supposed to ask permission to do that. But why don't we take Steve's suggestions and take a look at it? We always like to go there. And do you know that near to your house, we're planning to put in a pedestrian bridge? There's already one on the Mattapan side, which I call the north side, and we're putting in a pedestrian bridge at the other end, not to go over the pond, but to go over Pine Tree Brook, so that people can walk all the way. Right?
Oh,
so
perfect.
It's a beautiful, beautiful spot.
Oh, great.
How about Wendy? We might be able to combine this. We've got some issues with the Community Preservation Act Committee coming up on Pope's Pond. We've got 3 projects there: the bridge, the completion of the pathway, and then the handicapped accessible pathway going around there. So, and when is the meeting? Is that next Wednesday? That is a week from tomorrow?
It is actually next Tuesday, I believe, John.
A week from tonight.
Correct.
All right, so why don't we put this Saturday then, because we'll be out there and that'll be fresh in our minds. Can you, Wendy, can you make it this Saturday?
Yes, I can.
All right. Tom, can you make it Saturday?
The 13th. What time?
Wendy, we'll make it 8:30, okay?
Thank you.
I think 13th's okay.
All right, Arthur, are you okay on the 13th?
Up in the air, that's a possibility.
Okay, why don't we schedule it, and then I'll reach out to Hans and to Ingrid. to see if they're available, and then we can make it work. If not, we could do it as a subcommittee if we won't have a quorum. And I know you don't know what I'm talking about, Ms. King, again, but, we can vote when we're in quorum, but we don't have to be if we're just looking. And that's all we'd be doing essentially anyway, just looking.
Okay.
So what's the best place to meet, Tom? You're probably the best at this. Should we meet on the Sumner Street side and walk around, or do we go in? We don't want to walk through the ice house.
Well, if Miss King would invite us, we could meet at 8:33, right, or 5:33.
But can you
That's where we're going, right?
Yeah, yes, it is. But can you park, or do you block the bike path?
You can
there's
park
parking.
along Blue Hill Parkway.
Yes,
You
there's
can?
parking on this street.
All right. So is that okay if we come by Saturday the 13th at about 8:30 in the morning?
Sure. Is that okay with you? Yes, that's fine.
Perfect. All right, that's good. We'll see you then. All right.
Okay.
And if something comes up that, if for instance, Arthur can't make it, we can still do it as a subcommittee. So why don't we plan on Saturday morning? Dave, that's good with you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, good. All right. We'll see you at 8:30. Thank you very much, Ms. King.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Ms. King.
No
Thank you.
problem. No problem.
Now that is it for the agenda, other than new business, and we do have new business. And to get you up to speed, and Steve, you and I had a chance to talk, but I also talked to Ned Cochran today, because one of the things, and this is all my fault, I thought, I should have made sure that 24 Wentworth Farm Road was on it. We've got an enforcement order there. Back in April, I put out a request for proposal. The 3 engineering firms and Merrill Engineering did respond positively. We got the contract. It took a little while to get it signed, but we're up and running. And she issued a preliminary report. The only difficulty with the report is there were essentially 4 areas on the request for proposal, and number 4 had to do with the efficacy of the design of the septic system. It's going back to my initial discussions with Jeff Kane, who had presented to us the original plan that we approved in our order of conditions. And his concern was that there are differences in what was actually installed from his plan, and that's how this whole thing started. And one of my concerns was, if you use a filter fabric, does that then change the size and capacity of the holding tank? And I believe the answer is yes, but that hasn't been answered by Deb Keller, who is our engineer consultant. She was not available for tonight. So I think that part of it, and the portion that I'm talking about, is the leaching field and the retaining wall. Well, there are 2 parts. I guess one is the leaching field and the retaining wall. The other one is the Cultec chambers, which are in the backyard, which are the recipients of the roof runoff drains. And that problem was the one that was seen by Steve Ivis when he was out there. And he saw it overflow, which actually created somewhat of a, I don't want to exaggerate, but geyser, that is water going up because the Cultec chamber was filled, no place for the water to go, so it goes up. So it was coming out of the backyard. And Deb, in her initial, and I don't know, has everybody seen her initial report? I thought I sent it around. I don't
think we did, John.
All right. Well, I'll get that to you by Saturday, because nothing's going to happen today. But there are 2 areas of concern. One is the rain runoff from the roof that ends up in a Cultec chamber in the backyard, and the other one is the septic system, whether or not the way it was installed is going to work, because it's definitely different than the way it was designed and approved by us. It has been approved by the Board of Health. I just want to make sure that the differences in how it was actually installed, so to be as-built, is not going to impact the efficacy. The other part of the septic system is the retaining wall, which we've all been out to see. And the photographs in Deb Keller's report will remind you of what you saw when we were all out there. they are very, very large boulders with lots of spaces in between the boulders. And the concern is that if there's too much water from above, that the leaching field might blow out through the retaining wall, because it's not as designed and approved. It was supposed to be a solid cement wall or block wall. And rather than that, they've got boulders out there with lots of spaces in between. So our concern was that with a heavy rainfall, it could blow out the septic refuse. And it's right next to the wetlands. So, and we've all seen it, so I'll get that out to you. And then I talked to Ned tonight, and he knew that Deb couldn't make it, so we talked back and forth. It was difficult for him to make it as well. So maybe what we could do, do we need a site visit? I've been there a number of times. I don't need one. Does anybody feel we should need one? Because, hopefully we'll have a plan to fix this by the August meeting. But if we have Deb's report, why don't I just get to the report? And I don't think we have to take another look at it, because she's actually got some pretty good photographs in the report. So I'll get that out to you tomorrow. And then other than that, Steve, do you have anything because you've seen it. In fact, you're the first one to spot the problem with the roof runoff.
The only other thing I would say is they've made some improvements to the quote unquote basin. And you might want to take a look at that, because it's really radically changed from what it was when we were out there the last time. There's turf along the slopes. There's some plantings in there as well, and some trap rock, I suppose you'd call it, near the outlet pipe for the basin.
All right.
So
Well, why don't we do that? That makes sense, because we've got two things. We could take a look at the rock wall, and by that time, y'all have talked to Deb Keller,
yes,
and we might have a better idea of what can be done. Some of it we might have to wait for, like the retaining wall, and issues related to that, and the efficacy of the system with the filter fabric. But the easier fix is probably going to be the overload on the Cultec chamber. And there may be a way to fix that. She made a suggestion that you'll see in that. But why don't we plan on going from the ice house area, 533 Blue Hills Parkway, and just take a quick look up at Wentworth Farm Road. It won't take long, but I think it's a good idea, because that big basin there that was not working hopefully will be working now that it's been fixed by the homeowners association.
And we're going to have some rain for the next few days, so we'll be able to test and see if it is working.
You're right. So Philip, can you put that on the agenda as well for?
Absolutely. So we're going to do 533 Blue Hills Parkway and 24 Wentworth Farm Road.
Yes.
Okay.
Beginning at 8:30.
Right. You'll have to announce that tomorrow, so that we're in time for the the 48-hour open meeting law requirement.
They'll have it by 7:30 tomorrow morning before they get to work.
That's perfect. That's good. All right. What else do we have for new business?
Just one other item from me. I just wanted to make sure that the public is aware, and the commissioners and the public are aware of VHB has requested an extension to the order of conditions, the superseding order of conditions from DEP for 711 Randolph Ave. Just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that, because their current order of conditions is going to run out very soon. That's all.
I don't know
from
if
me.
Tom, have you been up there to see the site?
Well, yeah, and I remember Hans said to me, "You ought to tell Steve what you saw." But this was several weeks ago. I went through an abutter's lot on Highland Street, and I saw the lower edge that is near the wetlands that are closer to Randolph Ave, and I saw the sock running along the wetland edge, and it seemed to me that the clearing might have gotten over the wetland boundary a little bit. Not much, but it seemed like the work was right to a wetland edge there, and I say, it looked like the edge because the land had flattened out, and I saw the cinnamon fern and the pepper bush and so forth. You know, just the large flat area that is at the base of the slope. So that was something I noticed. What's that?
Are you talking about the Meg Lane side of
Yes.
it? Where
Yeah.
it's actually 7-Eleven, which is the entrance.
Right. Yeah, well, it's a large...
That is wetland.
Go ahead.
Well, it's a limited project, so that's definitely wetlands. They're going to be going right through and over.
I see. Well, maybe that was a point I saw where they were getting close to that crossing. I would describe the clearing as a little unusual because it seemed they left a couple of trees almost as if they were too big for their equipment. There's a sycamore in the middle of the site that may be the biggest in town. And if you stop at the driveway into the DPW, at least last week, you could see it over all the trees, over the tree line and back where the construction entrance went in. I know that tree is scheduled to, yeah?
I hate to
Is
tell
it
you,
gone?
Tom, but it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, all
They
right.
took it all out. Yeah.
Yeah, they have worked more since I've been there. Okay, well, that was all I had to say.
All right, well, I've gone up the entranceway out of the DPW yard, which is pretty heavy stone, and that seems to be fairly well controlled in terms of the means of access to get to the construction site. There's a lot of clearing up there. But I have not, I've passed it on Randolph Avenue, but I have not gone to the area where the 7-Eleven entrance is. My concern, and I think Steve's concern, and perhaps all of our concern, is that when we considered the project, keeping in mind that we ended up denying the project, and we were overturned by a superseding order. But our concern was that at that crossing sign we are talking about, the 5,000 square feet that they've committed to, limiting themselves to that amount of alteration. We asked at the pre-construction meeting that be, clearly staked, because it's going to be difficult from a construction perspective to actually maintain that line, because it's going to be pretty soft soil. There's a lot of water there. So what we did at the pre-construction meeting, the we that I talked about is Steve Ivas and I were both there. Scott Morrison is the environmental monitor. He was there. Paul Holland, the developer, he was there. And Colm Murphy, the contractor, he was there as well. And he seemed to have some experience in this area and knew what we were talking about. So we asked that when they and Chase Berkeley was there as well. So we asked that when they stake that crossing through the wetlands, that they use rebar that extends 6 feet above the surface of the ground, so you can see it. Because that was sort of a challenge that we identified, and Paul Holland acknowledged that he was aware of the tight plan. But the trick is to see if they can stay within that plan, because if it goes beyond the 5,000 square feet, it triggers a MEPA review, and they've got to go back and get permission to exceed that 5,000 square feet. That's why we asked that there be very, very clear lines of demarcation for the construction vehicles and construction equipment. And Steve, I think, I know you're aware of that because we've talked about it a lot. But just if you could make sure that you keep an eye on them, that they actually put those rebar stakes in so we can see them.
Yes, the last time I was down there with Scott Morrison and Colm Murphy, we talked about where the stakes were going to be going, okay? And in fact, they have an idea of the location of the stakes already, of course. They've surveyed it in. And we just talked about, okay, when are you going to put the stakes in? Well, as soon as it's dried out. Well, guess what?
That could be some time.
Here we are in the monsoon season, right?
Yeah.
It could be sometime. It could be, it could not be sometime, depending on the weather. And we'll see how much it rains toward the end of this week.
All right. And we are getting weekly reports. Philip, are you getting those?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
So
I
if,
received
if
them.
anybody wants to act, I mean, they're available for you. If you want Philip to send them to you, then speak up. Because that's part of the
They're-
environmental monitor's required. That's his responsibility.
And they're very quick read, and there's some photographs in them for the most part as well. And I think they might be bi-weekly reports, John.
Really? I thought we were to get one every week.
I'm pretty sure they're bi-weekly, but I can check that.
Okay. All right, good. Well, they're accessible to us anyway.
Yes.
All right. Any other additional business?
Wendy had some.
We can't hear
Wendy,
you.
you're on mute.
There we go. I have a few items, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One is that in the last few weeks, I have received a couple of messages from neighbors of Turner's Pond. And there is some concern about the straw wattles that are there on the path that seem to be encroaching into the water. And the neighbors are concerned about the waterfowl and other wildlife that are potentially going to get tangled up in the mess. Regretfully, I was not at the site walk in which the commission was discussing the work that's being done at Turner's Pond. But I'm wondering if the wattles are in fact, if they need to be there, and if not, if they could be removed.
Well, one of the problems that we saw, Wendy, was that if you're up at the Glover School side, there was a significant washout there of the pathway, and the path was ending up in the pond. So as bad as the straw wattles were, they were doing something. And I agree with what you said. The problem is the washout. And I don't know where we are, and we had sort of a next step plan of action, and it was going to go back and forth between Chase Berkeley and Pete Jackson and the contractor to try to figure out what we could do to fix the washout. Part of the concept planning, we were just kind of kicking around ideas. It was not an engineering discussion, but sort of a blue sky kind of discussion. Could we put some underground conduits, put some more there, because they worked before. Now, again, the area, I think, Tom, and y'all know this, back on the side closest to like Ruggles Street where Ingrid lives, I guess that would be the side closest to Central Avenue. That is the Ruggles Street. I'll do it that way. Mm-hmm. There were some areas there that could probably handle an underground pipe. There were some other areas closer to Glover School that probably could not handle an underground pipe. But they were going to put their heads together, and I think was Hans, I think he was a designated hitter, that he was going to see if he could find somebody to fund it, because somebody who was very interested in improving the situation might have been willing to add some funding to the town. The town has already overspent the budget for that particular project. I think it was budgeted for about $150,000, and they were like 165. So I know Chase was getting squeezed on the budget. The contract had been completely paid out, and the contractor was saying, "Listen, I'll do a little bit more, but you know, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to work for nothing." So there was some pressure points there as well. But that was actually one of the issues where the pathway was washed out. So at this point, I don't know if taking the wattles out, maybe they should be reset. I mean, we can't have them in the pond. You're right. And the neighbor is right. But we might want to have to reset them back to prevent further washout of the pathway.
They're pretty decrepit right now. I mean, they were once round, but I was just looking at the photos I shared a couple of weeks ago from April, and a lot of them are like flat as pancakes. as if they've been stepped on, and they're broken in other places. So it would be hard to use the same ones to try to recreate anything. On the other hand, I wonder if they still need to be there at all. I'm not really sure what they're accomplishing.
The concerned neighbor shared with me some photos that that they had taken recently at the site, and I admittedly have not been there in about a month or so. So my recollection of seeing them is that they were not as bad as what these photos showed from just a couple of weeks ago. But I did reach out to that neighbor to let them know that I would bring it up at the meeting tonight to try to learn more. And she told me that that she had heard, apparently she's out of town, but she had heard from other neighbors that the Waddles are no longer there at this point. I was hoping to swing by there tonight before our meeting to confirm. So I don't know for a fact if they are or are not there, but I can tell you that the pictures that I saw, I can't imagine they're doing anything effective at this point. They were just like a mumbled, jumbled mess. So I don't know.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, add to Wendy and Tom's comments, you may recall that I had mentioned in a conversation that when one of my cousins was in from Canada, we took a walk around Turner's Pond, actually a couple of times. And this was just after when we had been there for the site walk, which was during a rainstorm. And then I believe there was a rain after that. And the trail erosion was significantly degraded from the site walk. And as the Waddles were as appropriately designated as flat as pancakes, not doing anything of value for any one. In fact, in some instances, they were hazardous to walking. In other instances, they were going right into Turner's Pond itself. So this leads me to a recommendation for future such projects, and namely that budgeting can't any longer be predicated on what was in the past. The budget may have been fine for work that had been previously done in Turner's Pond, but with the increased water and erosion, i.e. climate change, budgeting for projects of this nature probably have to be scrutinized by the Conservation Commission to make sure that there is increased funding to allow for the additional impact of climate change along the lines of areas like this. We know, for example, you probably heard recently that the beach at Walden Pond is no longer there. It may be later in the summer, but right now, because of water, the level of the pond has risen and encompassed the entire beach area that was there. And this is symptomatic of what we have at Turner's Pond as well.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we do this? I'll call Chase tomorrow, or Wendy, if you get a chance to walk by and get your own perspective, and we can bring it up again when we meet on Saturday. And Chase can. It may be that they either DPW or perhaps the contractor pull them out. Because I know the contractor wanted to close out the contract and just shut it down. And I'll also reach out for Hans because he was trying to get some kind of neighborhood support organized to put a proposal together, hopefully with funding, and if not, then maybe that's where the CPC could come in, the CPA rather, could come in and do some work there.
John, it would be actually. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wendy.
No, please go ahead, Arthur. I think
I
that,
was just going to say it would be good to see if there is any photographic trail of the stakes in those wattles after they were set in place. On our site walk and on the subsequent walk that I took, it was very evident that they were too few and far between. There was no way those wattles were going to be kept in place with the staking process that they employed, or that appeared to be employed. Somebody made the comment, I believe, that, well, people took the stakes. I couldn't see stakes thrown into the pond or thrown into the wood or thrown aside like would often be done when people pull stakes out of the ground. I'm not sure that they were properly set to begin with.
All right, well, let's reconvene on that with additional information from Chase, from Hans, from you, Wendy. And what about Pete Jackson? Because he was sort of the prime mover on the most recent reconstruction, and I think he was dismayed that it hadn't worked as well as he thought it would.
Yeah,
it may well be climate change.
Yep.
Because it worked back in 2010 pretty well.
Yeah, we have to plan a budget for what's around the corner, not what we're used to.
So if I might just add on to your suggestion, John, about us trying to seek funding to supplement this project in recognition of the change in hydrology with the change of climate. Interestingly, the Glover School PTO has submitted a CPC application that they're seeking funding to renovate the field, their playing field, and some of the playground, and some of the trees that are in that vicinity. And I feel like there's a couple of things that are real opportunities for us as a commission to perhaps collaborate with them. If they're going to be investing in renovating this field and the play area, then perhaps that's also an opportunity for us to work with the right professionals to address the hydrology issue that's causing the degradation of their field, but also the washout of the path at the same time.
Right, that very issue came up at the site walk we took there in the rainstorm. That is the Glover School field, which is, I'll say it's new, it's probably 15 years ago or more, that they extended that field out beyond the original Glover School playground. And that's a wreck now, because it does get a lot of use. And right now, that's one of the areas that we stopped, and it's a pretty big site walk. And Kevin Chisholm was there from Parks Department. Chase was from DPW. So we had a good, and Pete Jackson from the many committees that he sits on. So we were all kind of pondering, saying, how do we fix all of it? Because they're all so interconnected. And you're right. If we can get more funding for it, we might be able to do sort of an interface between the walkway, the preservation of the pond, the improvement of the play area, the playing field at Glover School. That makes good sense. Is there a lead person for the PTO from Glover?
Yes, there is. Her name is Ellen, and her last name is escaping me at the moment. But she came before the CPC at our last meeting, last week or the week before, and Pete Jackson, as you may know, is also on the CPC. And so Pete and I were real excited about this proposal, and let Ellen know that, hey, this is likely within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, and were you aware that, there's a permitting process, and so she was not at the time. I don't know about the rest of the team, but they, like I said, they're at the very early stages, so they wouldn't necessarily have come before us yet. But I'm wondering if we might want to get involved as soon as possible with this concept to hopefully help them meet their goals, but also address the concerns that we as a commission have for the pond.
Now, when they say restore, this is going to be rather an impolitic question, but you're talking about restoring the field, and we know the issues at the Lower Guile Road and Milton Academy we haven't seen, but I heard that they were going to file for an artificial turf field as well. Is there any suggestion that it should be or could be artificial turf?
I have not heard those words. I don't know. I don't think that was, I don't recall that being part of the proposal. However, there was another issue though, that is an immediate opportunity for us to collaborate with them, and that is that the PTO is seeking quite a bit of money from the CPC for the purchase and installation of trees, a lot of trees and quite big trees. I think they're likely looking for some immediate impact to create shade for the kids. As you know, there's just frankly not enough CPC funding to go around to all the good proposals that are coming before us. And so what came to my mind was that we as a commission have this virtual tree bank. And I'm wondering if we might be able to share some of the trees from our tree bank with the Glover School to help them with this project, but also, to lower the cost of what they're asking from the CPC. And maybe at the same time, that would enable there to be possibly some funding to address these other hydrologic concerns that we have.
Well, the simple answer is yes, of course. I mean, the Shade Tree Advisory Committee came to us, 5 years ago, and they had kind of a blue sky proposal saying, hey, give us your trees and we'll plant them everywhere. And our joint response was, give us a budget, give me details, give me specifics. And they actually didn't come back to us. But yes, we do have tree, and that's what they're for. I mean, that's exactly what we have used it for. And in the past, I'm going way back now, but we did plant some trees from the so-called virtual tree bank at Turner's Pond. But I would caution you and them that, putting in a large caliper tree is wildly expensive, and the survivability rate plummets.
Right.
And it might be more efficacious to, agree to plant smaller trees, like, 3.5, 4-inch caliper. When you get up to 8 inches and above, I don't know, Steve, I'll do, or Wendy, I'll defer to you, but am I correct that it's pretty tough to guarantee survival at that size?
It's unusual for people to plant anything that big. At least I haven't seen it often. A tree that is 3-inch caliper can easily be 15 feet high. What do they cost? I don't know.
And
well,
the larger tree. Sorry.
No, go ahead, because the larger trees are expensive, but I know we do the 3-inch caliper at $350 a tree and $150 for planting. That's why we came up with the $500 per tree.
I see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good planting size if you're trying to go big. I don't think going bigger than that really pays off. It just isn't
And
done.
with the larger trees, all you've got to get your water regime perfect. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
Right.
They become
Right.
stressed and then they're disease prone.
Exactly.
Just a little addition. The other end of the trail from the turnaround at Turner's, that bit of lawn that's near Central Ave and reaches over toward number 256. So that would be the untended area north of the traffic circle. That is the worst infestation of porcelainberry in town, maybe. It's just a sea of vines spreading out at about waist level. That would be a good place to put trees as well. The trees might shade out those vines and return that area to more respectable condition.
Yes, that's right, Tom. Very good. Good observation, Tom.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point. I feel like there's a lot of these little pockets of opportunities, just like what you're talking about, Tom, that, you know, if we're able to all put our brains together on this project, that we could really get a lot of bang for our buck. You know, not just the CPC dollars, but our virtual tree bank dollars. You know, I'm really excited about the opportunity. But I think where I was, what I didn't know is, and what I'm asking now is there a process, a public process that we have in place for groups like Glover School PTO to inquire about tapping into our virtual tree bank? Is that something that is an open opportunity to the public?
Of course. But you're right. It's a question of publicity and education, perhaps, because that's always been true. And we've, from the beginning, have said that these trees, if you can't plant them, if you're required to replace trees, but you can't plant them in your small yard, then they go into the virtual tree bank for public purpose. That's why the Shade Tree Advisory Committee came to us, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago. And so they were aware of it. So the answer is, DPW is aware of it, because periodically, I think we've given some of those to tree, sidewalk plantings for the town.
I think
I know we did it originally.
Sorry, John. I think what Wendy's asking about in part, and correct me if I'm not with you, Wendy, is there a process that's outlined someplace that people can see that might be on our website relative to and that's what the public needs. This issue is coming up with the Climate Action Planning Committee as well, which is doing a report on the conservation lands in the town of Milton. And one of the things that I asked them to do after the last meeting, which was with representatives of the Blue Hill Advisory Group and other parties, was our friends of the Blue Hills, was to take a look at what the canopy needs are for the town of Milton without the Blue Hills as well as the Blue Hills, because they were doing their work inclusive of the 2.7 square miles of DCR property. Well, that's DCR work. We can have that information, but when you take a look at the canopy needs for the rest of the town, without the Blue Hills canopy being considered, it's a considerable need. So maybe we can put together something, because the Climate Action Planning Committee, with or without coordination with the Shade Tree Advisory Committee, whereas that would be ideal, is nevertheless going to be incorporating this in their recommendations as well in all likelihood. So we want to get ahead of that.
Mhm. Yeah, so Arthur, you're absolutely right. What I was specifically wondering is what is the process that a group like a PTO in town might follow if they wanted to utilize some of the trees in our tree bank. So would we invite them to come before us? Would
Yeah.
how?
That's exactly what happened with the Shade Tree Advisory Committee. Yeah.
Okay.
But the point is that people don't know about that. I think that's your point.
Yeah.
So the website, I think we should probably take a pretty close look at our website and improve that. And then alert people that there is such a thing as the virtual tree bank.
Right.
And right now, I don't know what's in it. Philip, I know Kathy did know, so it may be there somewhere in the records. And if you can't find it, I know she knows about it. And I talk to her periodically, what do we have there? And some of it was people promising to pay later on. Some people actually paid in and got a credit. And we held the credit at Bunny Thomas's place. And, they actually paid some money in and we had a credit to go there and take a tree out because it was already paid for. So there is a recordation of that somewhere.
I'll look in. If I can't find it, I'll get in touch with Kathy.
Okay. All right.
I think you're right, John, about having the protocol to be followed. First of all, posting so that people know, and then what the protocol is. Actually, an application submission form that would be made to the Concom by the interested parties, so that there's a paper trail. We can maintain this with respect to the inventory.
Yes.
I know that's creating some additional workload, but I think would be, you're damned if you do it, but you're more damned if you don't do it.
True.
And might it make sense for us to collaborate on this with the Shade Tree Advisory Committee? Because they're doing a lot of the same thing, but they, my understanding though is that they have some more restrictions on the use of their trees. Like those trees need to be on a public roadway, for example, or immediately adjacent to a public roadway. Whereas I don't think our trees have any restriction, or do they?
Right. No, they do not.
They have public property, don't they, John?
Yes.
Property.
Yes. When I said no restrictions, I'm sorry, I should have stated that more clearly. Yes, public property.
Okay.
If it goes into the tree bank, of course, it was easier to describe when we had the 3-to-1 tree replacement rather than the sum of the circumference and all that. But we could just count numbers. So we had, you have to put three trees into the tree bank. And then we know what they were. They were 3 trees, 3-inch caliber or 3.5. And we kind of vacillated back and forth whether it was 3 or 3.5. But those trees were available. And again, going way back, we did plant some at Turner's Pond. But typically they were used, if at all, by the town. Now, when the Shade Tree Advisory Committee first came to us, they just asked us for money. And that's the one we said, well, if you're asking for money, you got to tell us, what it's going for, how many trees do you want, because we can do the calculation and we may be able to pay you not in dollars, but in trees from the virtual tree bank. But they never came back to us with a budget. So they came to us with a concept, and we were, I think, as a group, we're pretty enthusiastic about it because our interests were the same. But they didn't.
Oh, sidelight. Could I just say that I've heard that they have more trees than they can give away because they are restricted to putting them along the streets. And when they ask the public, we'll give you a tree in front of your house, they didn't get as many requests as they had trees. So I would say that Wendy's idea of cooperating with PTO makes a lot of sense because we will get what we want in terms of trees planted and some kind of advisory role about those trees, and they will get what they want, which is help with a project. So it just seems to make sense.
Well, I don't necessarily see the two as being mutually exclusive. I think I'd like to propose that we do both, that we collaborate with the Glover PTO about sharing some of our trees from our tree bank, but also bigger picture for to enable the possibility of future projects like the Glover School, that we collaborate with the Shade Tree Advisory Committee to maybe jointly combine our efforts for both outreach and administration of these trees, so that nobody wants these trees just to go out there willy-nilly and not be taken care of or watered or maintained, or to not even know where they go. It's just to have a nice administrative system that we're able to keep track of these things, and also facilitate future use of these trees.
And further, Wendy, keep track of the trees as time goes on. I think that's a very important feature. Number the trees, for example. You can put them on a GIS map, like many towns have done. Every tree in Germany is on a GIS map that's over 1 meter high. Every single tree. Hard to believe.
And Steve, related to that, one of the outcomes from similar sessions at Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commission's annual meetings is that there is a mortality rate. And if I recall correctly, it's about 20% for planted trees like the ones that we're discussing. And one of the faults that they identified was that communities don't inventory the plantings like you're talking about and follow up on them so that they can identify the ones that didn't succeed and replace them.
Agreed.
A few years ago, the Shade Tree Advisory Committee did get a inventory of all the street trees in town. Fred Taylor showed it to me. It must be like 10 years old. But there was a baseline of sorts that they contracted for, I believe, with a tree company. It's a spreadsheet. Has it been updated? I don't know.
Who would have an interesting statistic would be DPW, because they put in the tree filter boxes. They did it when the new high school, the new Pierce School was built where the old high school was. There are tree boxes there that are filters, and then just recently, I say recently, it was pre-COVID, so it's got to be 4 years ago, when we did Wendell Park, and we put in 6 of those tree filter boxes. I bet the DPW knows exactly how many they put in, because they're actually pretty expensive. I bet Chase Berkeley has kept track of that, where they are and how they're doing.
Was that a 319 grant, or was that a CZM grant that paid for those tree boxes? Do you remember, John?
It was a state grant, but I don't know what the classification was. No, I don't know what the acronym was.
Okay.
But
Wendy, I think it may have been a 319 grant. May have been.
I would imagine, since there were so many of them, because the CZM grant would likely not cover very many. it's my understanding that that every town in the Commonwealth has to have a tree warden. And I, to my knowledge, I don't. Well, maybe you guys, one of you guys knows. I mean, do we have such a position in our town?
Branch Lane has been a tree warden for the last 50 years, I think. We've been to his house on Highland Street.
Site visits, right?
In fact, most recently we were there for the 600 that pond that they wanted to scoop out and make accessible for a walk from Winter Valley over to the back of what I call the Whitney Estate. That's right where Branch lives. So we've been up there. He's been with us. He was the applicant, I think, for that, wasn't he?
I think he's on the Shade Tree Advisory Committee as well.
Okay. I just want to make sure that whatever system that we put into place that we're not stepping on any toes and that we're doing it in a spirit of collaboration. So and I feel like I'm as one of the newbies on the commission, I'm not fully aware of the systems that we currently have in place.
You're not a newbie anymore, Wendy.
No, not
I like that excuse. Damn it. Well, needless to say, when the Glover PTO application came before the CPC, I didn't feel like I had the knowledge or the authority to speak articulately about the commission's tree bank, and I was reluctant to certainly. I know that I'm not able to make any offers, but I did say that this tree bank exists and that that there was a potential of us collaborating with them, and that I would check in with all of you to sort of see what next steps might be.
Yeah, they should come to us with a proposal, but it should be specific so that they don't go in the same direction as the Shade Tree Advisory Committee did and then stop it. And you should also talk to them, I think, from a practical perspective, that if they think they're going to put in a 12-inch tree because it's fully grown and will provide a lot of big branches for the kids to have a swing set on, that's not going to work. So I think you have to be practical and say, get the size of the tree to be planted down so it's survivable and sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working off a foggy memory and a few hours of sleep, but I'm pretty sure they were talking about like around 4 or 5 caliper, maybe 4. But what really raised my eyebrows was the price tag associated with that, and I realized that they were pricing it based on market price, whereas I feel like our in-house price tag of $500 a tree is really quite a bargain, and if we're able to offer these trees at no cost to the PTO, even better.
Well, what you just said, though, may be contradictory because we set that $350 a tree and $150 to plant it. At the time, that was market, so we've been using that a long time. So if they're going out looking for trees and it's like $1,000 for the tree and $500 to plant it, the market's the market. Those aren't actual trees. They're virtual trees, and we put a price tag on it, and it might be unrealistic. Maybe we can't buy trees for $500 now. I don't know. Maybe we'd have to reconsider our replacement cost.
We need a banker for our tree bank.
I know, you got it. What prices did they give you? Did they give you prices? Did they give you prices?
I seem to remember their proposal was like around $1,000 a tree, but like I said, that was for bigger trees, and that was, you know, planted by a private landscaping company.
Well, around here you're going to pay top dollar.
Top dollar. Top dollar.
And I want to support the Milton, you know, businesses. But to be realistic, to get the, you know, lower prices, you're going to have to go a ways, and that may include transportation costs and all that. So there's a balance in there somewhere.
Yeah. So would we suggest then that they submit a proposal to us for a dollar amount, or might we suggest that they come before us with a proposal that we work with the DPW, for example, to buy these trees wholesale and ask DPW staff to do the installation?
Yeah, yes, the latter of what you said, because, you know, the commission, I know I personally have had a number of conversations with Chase Berkeley about that. In fact, we talked about his budget maybe 3 years ago now, but maybe 2 or 3 years. And he had, you know, $43,000 on his line item budget for street trees. And he said, that's not going to buy as much as we need because, you know, the costs are going up. So, yeah, he's all over that. And the answer is yes, indeed, you buy wholesale. Right, so we should buy as a town. And maybe we can get, you know, contributions, and maybe, you know, maybe all we have in our virtual bank is money. And maybe our $500, that's a planted amount, $350 plus $150, and maybe that's just not realistic anymore in today's market. I don't know what it costs actually, but I think it's going to be a combination of that. But I think we should look at everybody, the Climate Action Committee, the Open Space Committee, the Conservation Commission. We should all look at it jointly and say, how do we get the best bang for the buck? And it may be, you know, going far and wide and buying a whole lot of trees. But Chase would be the expert on that, I think. But you're right, it should be coordinated.
Yeah.
So why don't you reach out and talk to Chase? I mean, I talk to him a lot anyway, but why don't you reach out to him, and then we can carry this conversation on Saturday, so we don't just talk about it and then drop it. Why don't we put it on the agenda, or at least in our heads, our agenda to talk about on Saturday, and in between now and then, we've got some people to talk to. And Chase is very, very accessible. In fact, Phil can just yell, and he'll answer. He's only about 30 feet away.
You weren't suggesting, John, that I reach out to Chase.
Yeah, I am.
Are you?
I was. I did. Yes, I was.
He's not scary. Don't worry.
Yes.
He's a nice man.
I know he's a lovely person. Yes, but I'm wondering though if I mean maybe it would be more efficient for maybe Steve to have that conversation with Chase on behalf of our commission. I'm not trying to skirt responsibility for a task. I'm just wondering if since Steve has a close working relationship with Chase and is familiar with what our needs are as a commission.
And I'd be happy to have a discussion with Chase, John, just FYI.
Yeah, I agree. But it's a money issue for the town. And there are cost centers and profit centers in the town. The Conservation Commission is the profit center because we don't cost anybody anything other than the $2,500 in our budget each year, which we easily spend on, going to Worcester for the annual convention. So it's going to be a budgetary issue. And I think a commission member should do that. And I'm only saying that because Steve's not a town resident. Right. He knows the cost of the keys, of the trees and the DPW workings and all that stuff. But are you being shy about pushing this? I'm not trying to talk you or Steve.
No, I don't think I've ever been accused of being shy, but I think what it is that I feel like I just don't know. Like for example, I don't know how much money we have in our tree bank. I
don't either. But that's why we need to, I think, continue this conversation on Saturday, because Phil is going to look for it. If he can't find it, he's going to call Kathy Bowen, and I know she had it at one time. And she may say, oh, it's in the revolving fund. Well, to some extent it is, because our fines go into the revolving fund, and we've got about $91,000 in the revolving fund, but we can only spend $15,000 per year. Last year we spent $10,000 on the the signs, and we've committed another $10,000 for fiscal 25 for signs, and in fact we're negotiating on that. So the reason I brought up the money part of it is that's what we're talking about. Like, we had to go, and Arthur's been involved in this. We wanted to buy more signs. The last time through, we bought 10 signs for $10,000. This year, we got a bid for $12,500. So we said, why don't we get 8 signs and keep it within the 10? Because we only had 10. We only authorized 10,000. The problem is the turnaround time on that company was like 6 months. So we went out to somebody else, and they said, yeah, we'll do it for $1,400 a sign. This is the practical side of what you're talking about. But Chase is all over that. So Chase is actually our negotiator. Arthur's talked to him, I've talked to him. And what we've done is we've gone back to the one at $1,200 rather than the $1,400, because we know what the product is. And we said, we'll only pay you that if you can do it within 4 months. So that's the bid right now. Okay, we'll go with you with $1,200 a sign. And these are the pretty signs that we all like. And just so you know, again, this comes into play with the Pine Tree Brook Association. I mean, this is the real stuff here, because Deborah Milbauer is saying, listen, you guys need better signs, and we don't want the metal ones. Well, the metal ones are cheap, and they're fast. You can turn it around in 7 to 10 days. And we don't have the funding for, the pretty signs that they're now between $1,200 and $1,400 a sign. That's the practical side of it. That's why we need to coordinate with Chase to buy trees in bulk, and we'll have a better sense of what's in the tree bank. I know what Kathy's going to say. She's going to say that our fines go into the revolving fund, and I think that's $91,000 right now that we have. But we can only spend $15,000 a year, so we have to prioritize where we're spending it.
So you're saying that our virtual tree bank is, in fact, part of morphed with.
No, they kind of get pushed together.
Okay.
But I'll give you an example. I think, and we've done this one on credit with Wollaston Country Club, because they have actually said, oh yeah, we owe you another 9 trees. So we don't actually have them put $4,500. We didn't go 9 times 5 is $4,500. Give us a check for $4,500 and put it in there. On some occasions, we have done that. But Wollaston's always been a good neighbor, so we say, we'll call on you when we need them. And sometimes, we come up with other plans to plant additional trees in an area that we thought was appropriate at Wollaston. So it's more of a number. Some of it's actually money. Some of it's just sort of a credit that we're carrying. But that's the record that you have. So the answer to your question, I don't know how much money is there, and I don't know how many trees are there, but the records exist somewhere.
Okay.
But that revolving fund is for planting trees, among other things, of environmental significance.
But that revolving fund has the restriction of $15,000 withdrawal per year, and we've already tapped into it this year. Okay.
We've tapped into it. Yeah, that's an interesting question, Arthur. We actually authorized that 10,000. We as a group, we voted on it, 3 months ago or so.
Right.
And that was, but I can't remember. Was that fiscal? I guess that was fiscal 25.
Correct.
Right. And by the way, the delay on the Wendy, again, this is the practical side of what we do.
Yeah.
The no parking signs at Lower Guile Road. We didn't have any money, or nobody had any money left in fiscal 24, so we had to wait until July 1st. That's why it was delayed from last month. We didn't have any money. And Chase has got the money in his account. And so, and again, I've been encouraging you to get involved in this, so you realize it. It's like CPC asked me for the Community Preservation Act Committee asked me for an accounting of what's going on with the pedestrian bridge. Well, we have spent money. We just haven't spent the CPC money because town meeting in June of 2020 authorized $100,000. So yeah, we've been paying money for what's been done, the surveying costs, the soil boring costs, and the analysis of the soil.
Yeah.
That's out of the line item in the DPW budget. So yes, it's been paid, but we haven't tapped the 125 from the Community Preservation Act. So they chose a zero, deduction. And they say, well, aren't you guys doing something? Well, yeah, we are doing something. We're just charging it to a different account. So I think it's good for you to get involved with talking to Chase.
Oh, okay. It will be a learning experience that I look forward to the opportunity of. Yes, thank you. Maybe Philip, when you find the files that you are going to be looking for with Kathy's files, maybe you and I can touch base and you can get me up to speed.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great.
And then we'll reconvene on this on Saturday when we get together.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Any other new business? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I would just like to ask, Wendy, you're sitting in a car, right?
I am, yeah.
Are you like under a streetlight or something?
I am. I apologize.
Well,
for
no,
the
I'm just
lighting. Yeah.
intrigued. So did you get thrown out of the hotel room or something?
Oh no, I was inadvertently delayed and was not able to get home in time for our meeting, and so.
Oh well, that's dedication. Well, wonderful, and have a good ride.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Wendy.
Oh yeah, you bet.
So we all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. God bless all.
See you
Thanks,
all
everybody.
on Saturday.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.